Hey guys, let's talk about tonight's premiere episode of Arrow season 3. Wow, I was hoping that this was not going to be the end of Sara, and oh my gosh, I was not expecting that ending at all. Wow, let's get right into it. So it looks like some time has gone by because Oliver, Diggle, Roy, and Felicity are operating like a very well oiled machine. Roy seems to be very much in control. He is a fighting machine. He looks superb in his costume, and he's right alongside Oliver. And we get sort of one little glimpse of him wondering about where Oliver's sister is, and he quickly changes the subject and basically says he needs to go out and get some fresh air. And when Oliver tells him what a great job he just basically shrugs it off and keeps going. So it's nice to see that Roy has turned a corner and he's not just this brooding kid anymore, but he's actually up to fighting shape and he's working amongst this team, which is pretty awesome to see. Diggle was back in true form as well, and his ex-wife and him are expecting their first child, and she's 9 months pregnant. And there's a scene where they kind of freak out and they think that she's about to be in labor, but it just turns out it's Braxton Hicks. And by the end of the episode, Diggle has his little baby girl. Now, one of the things that I thought was very interesting between Diggle and Oliver, we all know back in season 1 that Diggle was the first person that Oliver told that he was the Arrow. And, throughout season 1, throughout season 2, they have developed a wonderful friendship and a true partnership. And, we really see that come to head in this episode when Oliver, after going out, and I'll get to that little bit in a little bit, going out with Felicity, there's an explosion and he starts to see things a lot differently. And, he basically tells Diggle that he can't come on this assignment with them and he's no longer allowed in the field. And Diggle's upset, and rightfully so. But he says, look, you're about to be a father and you need to be priority number one with your ex and your new child. Like, you can't be off running missions because I can't afford to lose you, and you can't afford to be gone when you have a new child on the way. And Diggle is very upset about this. And he pretty much says, listen, you wouldn't be alive if it wasn't for me. I've saved you so many times and I know the risks and you can't do this. You can't sideline me. And Oliver's like, well, I can and I am. And Diggle walks off upset. But by the end of the episode, when he's, there with his child, he and Oliver have this really great scene where he says, you know what, you were right. And they hug, and it's sort of one of those reminders like, you guys are risking your lives every day out there for Starling City and to try to save everyone, but you have loved ones that you're looking out for as well, and family is everything, and they keep reiterating that in this episode. So it was nice to see that Oliver and Diggle ended off on the right foot, and that Diggle just wasn't upset with him and storming off and, wanting to hold a grudge. And I really do like the friendship between Diggle and Oliver. I think it's one that they have really worked on in this series. And I think that it is very believable that they would do anything for each other. And I like that. So we got to see Quentin Lance, and he shaved his head, and I believe he's back to being chief. But he looks like he's kind of addicted to painkillers because he's been popping them like crazy. He did, however, make an announcement that they're no longer, he's basically dismantling the task force that was set out to try to get the vigilante, because he truly believes that the vigilante is there to protect the people of Starling City. So that was nice that, finally we're over that storyline, that we're over Lance, Detective Lance trying to constantly get in Oliver's way and prove that he's not the hero or the good guy that he really is. So that was a nice scene that we got. But later on, it looks like Quentin has another setback, and he goes out into the field, and as a result, he collapses. And of course, we get Laurel pointing the finger at and wagging the finger, saying, listen, you have no idea what it was like when you almost died the first time. So please, you need to stop trying to go back out into the field and realize that you have family that loves you and does not want to see you get hurt. So will Quentin take a step back? we'll see. I have a feeling he will not. And that I'm sure that the way that he was popping pills in this episode will play into him moving forwards in this series for this season. We had some really great flashbacks to Hong Kong and sort of getting a lay of the land, because we all know that the last two seasons were very heavily on about the island and what happened to Oliver while he was out there. But now he's been rescued by Amanda Waller off of the ship from the island, and now he's been brought to Hong Kong, and we see him trying to escape, and he's clearly tried to do this several times. And Amanda is pretty much at her wit's end, and she wants him to work for him, and he is just not interested. And he wants to get back home. And so she pretty much says, well, we're going to have to use another tactic to keep you here. And this man who has been tasked to keep him in Hong Kong, she pretty much tells him, like, I'll kill your whole family if you let Oliver get away. And when we find that out, obviously Oliver, who we know has a heart, is going to probably no longer try to escape. And that will be what keeps him in Hong Kong for the foreseeable future. So yes, it was obviously good to see Amanda Waller. She looks great. And to see, that Oliver has learned a lot from the island, and he's a good, strong fighter. But, there's a part of him that still really wants to get home. Now, to this part of the episode that I'm sure so many fans have been wanting and have been waiting for. I have been very vocal that I believe that Oliver and Felicity are a great team, but I don't see them as a romantic team, a romantic partnership, a romantic pairing on this series. Sorry, guys. I've tried, but I find that, they're more like best friends, which I think is better at the end of the day. So, I like that they kind of address this right off the top of the series or season, because people have been longing and waiting for this. And, even Diggle says to Oliver, you told her that you loved her for Slade, but you were trying to fool him, but you're fooling yourself right now. Do I believe that Oliver loves Felicity? Yes, I do. But I don't know if I think that she is the love of his life. I guess only time will tell. But not nonetheless, they end up going out on their very first official date. He asks her out. It's very sweet. And she's, of course, sort of at a loss for words, and she agrees to go out. And in the middle of like a mission, he asks her, does she like Italian food? And of course she does. And it was a really cute scene. And, she ends up getting all dressed up, looking beautiful, and she meets him at the restaurant. And they have a really great scene, and it's cute because they're so awkward. And he's like, why are we awkward? And she says, it's because we've pretty much talked about everything that you would talk about on a first, a second, a third date. And now it's sort of like, where do we go from here? And it's a really good question, because they have been such good friends that they've had all these conversations that you would have. And then he reveals that, he was in Hong Kong, and he starts talking about that part of his life. And it's a really good conversation because it's stuff that we've never heard before. And we know that he can be honest with Felicity. We know that. And that's what's so great about their relationship. And just as he starts to say, I thought that I couldn't be happy, and I thought that I couldn't have happiness in my life, being who I am and doing what I do. And then, of course, the restaurant blows up. And it's just another angst to keep these two apart. And that just ends up being the thread throughout the rest of the back half of the episode. Him telling Felicity that they need to talk, and Felicity basically saying, look, I don't want to talk to you about this right now, because she knows deep down that as soon as they have this conversation, he's going to end it. And the scene in the hospital when he says it again, we need to talk, she's like, no, I don't want to hear it. And I like that she says, stop saying maybe, just tell me never. If we're never going to be together, tell me that you don't love me. And then he grabs her and he kisses her. And it's this, very cute, not passionate. I wouldn't say it was passionate. It was just a very sweet, long kiss. And he turns her, and then of course they pull away, and the light hits them. And it's a little too cheesy for me. But shippers, don't be mad at me. I know you loved it, and I'm with you. It was cute. So she says again, I knew that as soon as you spoke to me, it would be over. And she pulls his hands away and she walks off. And I'm glad that she wasn't like, ooh, ah, goo goo gaga over it, because it's like, yeah, you're breaking my heart here. You're ripping my heart out of my chest because you're ending this. And what do I think is going to happen? I think that this new boy, I say, Roy is going to play a very not Roy, sorry. Ray is going to play a very interesting role now with Felicity, because one, they totally talk computer geek to each other, and they will totally get each other. And at this point, he doesn't pose as a threat. He could have many layers to him, which I hope he does. He doesn't just turn out to be, the guy who works at Starling City. No, not Starling City, sorry, at Queen Consolidated. But will he make Oliver jealous? Probably. I think Oliver was a little jealous when Barry Allen was there. So, it's good to see Felicity have some male attention that isn't Oliver, and that she can move on with her life, because the back and forth, her pining over him, I don't want to see that either. Felicity's a pretty girl. She can meet anybody she wants. Obviously her heart belongs to Oliver, and where will it go? I don't know. But I did actually like the introduction of this Ray guy, and I thought he was kind of funny, quirky. And when he was like, oh yeah, I took my helicopter and I landed it on the roof. Do you guys validate? That was kind of funny. And I think he's cute. Like, I think he's got this cute little banter about him that will totally suit Felicity's personality. Do I think that that's the direction the show's going to go in? I don't know. It probably seems likely. But I know that we have spent a lot of time with Oliver and Felicity, and I think that they do have chemistry in that way, that they work extremely well together. And I see them as best friends, which I hope does not change. And we'll see what happens. Now, to the most shocking moment of this episode, okay, of course, we had our baddie of the week, who was, throwing around these, not darts, but things that were basically bringing out your worst fears, and Oliver's worst fear was turning into himself, which I thought was pretty interesting. And I liked how that dynamic played out. He was fighting himself, what he believed who was himself. So I thought that was all really cool, and they ended up killing this guy in the end. But the true cliffhanger, obviously, is the fact that Sara comes back to town. She's been with the League of Assassins, and she comes back to help Oliver out. And she has a great little reunion with her sister Laurel. They have a nice little conversation on the rooftop. She tells Laurel she doesn't want her dad to know that she's returned just yet, because there's some stuff that she's working on. And Laurel says goodbye, they hug, and she walks away. And then all of a sudden she goes to leave. She turns around and you hear this voice, and I think he says, hello, Sara. And it's a voice that I don't recognize. I don't think it's, what's his name? The one who turned out to be Oliver's sister's father. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting her name there. And all of a sudden he shoots her with an arrow, a second arrow, a third arrow, and she goes careening off the edge of the building, lands on a garbage can, and is dead. Not Sara. I love Sara. Ugh. So now I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know if they're going to try to turn Laurel into Black Canary. I hope not, because Sara was so badass at that. And I just don't know where they're going to go now. Oh my God, Oliver's going to be devastated. Everybody's going to be devastated. Sara was awesome. And this is a great cliffhanger. I love how they ended this episode. I was in complete shock. All right, guys, let me know what you thought of this episode. Wow, good way to start. I'm impressed. All right, guys, talk to you later. Bye.